At some point, every singer hears about mixed voice and immediately becomes confused. Some say it's unattainable, some say it doesn't exist. Which is it? What is mixed voice? Let's clear this up. If mixed voice has ever felt like a mysterious technique that everybody talks about but no one can clearly explain, that changes today. Singers argue about it, teachers debate about it. I was reading through posts on the Our Singing Community Reddit, and I just saw that frustration over and over and over again in all of the comments and so many questions. So today I am going to explain it, and I'm going to explain it simply. In this video, you'll learn what the mixed voice actually is, why it's so confusing for all of us singers, how it should feel, and how you can start using it in your own voice. And here's the best part. There's a good chance you're already mixing and you just don't realize it. This is episode 2 of my Reddit Sings Back series, where I take real singer questions and give clear answers that will help you actually sing better. What is mixed voice, put simply? So let's start with the simplest definition possible. The mixed voice is coordination between the muscular and the acoustic elements of the head voice and the chest voice. Mixing the two voicings or registrations together, we get mixed voice. Pretty simple. In even simpler terms, it's your head voice and your chest voice mixing together. Why everyone is confused. So I went to Google and was typing in "is mixed voice," and it auto-filled before I finished real. So looks like a lot of people are wondering about this. Pedagogues, teachers, and authors through the years even differ on whether or not mix is actually a register, some believing that it's just a coordination of two true registers, being the head and chest registers. How mix actually works. Simply put, the cricothyroid, or CT, lengthens the vocal folds and thins them out, so that's how you get the higher pitches. Where the thyroarytenoid, the TA, actually shortens the vocal folds and thickens them, so that's how you get the lower pitches. Much like the strings on a guitar, the highest string is the thinnest string, and to make it higher, you would make it more tight. The lowest string, the thickest string. So for the mixed voice, essentially we are using both the CT and the TA that do both of these things usually by themselves individually. Now they have to work together to create what we call the mixed voice. One really great exercise that can help you start to understand how this feels and what is happening are slides. I love using slides for working through the mix because it smooths out the transitional notes, but also encourages consistent breath energy and consistent vocal tone all the way through. One example of a slide you can do is singing on one vowel up the fifth and down the fifth. So if you don't have a piano, just think of it as going from do to so back down to do. Do, so, do. So let's try this on an oo. So we're going to start on the do and go up to a so. Do, re, mi, fa, so, fa, mi, re, do, do, so, do. And we're going to start on an oo because the more closed vowels are a little easier to do this transition with. And then we use those to then anchor our more open vowels later on. But for this exercise, we're just going to stick with the oo. So on an oo, ooh. And the idea is to keep the same presence of sound and breath energy behind that sound, all the way up to the top and all the way back down, so that the top doesn't sound like a different voice than when we're starting. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And I'm just gonna pop onto another note, take it up a little higher, closer to the more challenging mix for the ladies. Ooh, ooh. So the difference between this being a warm-up and this being an exercise is paying close attention to placement and breath. Because as we're doing this, we want to pay attention to keeping that consistent tone all the way through. When we're struggling in our mix, it can start to sound like two different voices when you go from the bottom to the top. So the idea is to get it so that it all sounds like one cohesive voice. Here's an example of a less cohesive sound. Ooh. You see how it flips into head voice, so it's not really mixing as much as going from one registration to the other. We want it to all sound like one voice. Where the mix usually happens. These are all general categories. I want to stress that because the only way you can truly know what's correct for you is to know what your individual voice does. You truly need to work with a vocal coach or voice teacher. Soprano and altos. G4 to D5 is usually the mix range. Transitional notes are usually E4 to about G4. For tenors, the usual mix range is about F4 to C5. You'll notice they have a similar range to sopranos and altos, but the sound comes from different places in the mechanism. And for tenors, the transitional notes are E4 and F sharp 4, abouts. What mixed voice should feel like. First and foremost, laryngeal stability. Make sure that our larynx isn't rising, that it stays nice and relaxed. And a good way to figure out whether or not that's happening is to literally feel your larynx. And a good way to naturally help it relax and rest is to do a yawn. So inhale like you're about to yawn and you'll feel it depress. That is the lowering of the larynx. Now we want to be careful not to constantly manually depress the larynx. If your larynx is constantly raising up, there are tension issues that need to be dealt with, and it's not simply an issue of yawning. Then we have acoustic modification when you're doing your mix. We want to be sure not to spread too much. Broadening and destabilizing can diffuse the sound quite a bit, but also cause more tension. We also want a lifted soft palate. Now, when we lift the soft palate, we want to make sure that we're not sending the sound back. The soft palate is the roof of your mouth where it is soft. So you would take your tongue and touch the roof of your mouth and then start to take it all the way back, and you'll feel a porous, soft part of your roof of your mouth that feels like it's running away from your tongue. That is your soft palate. So when we lift the soft palate to sing, we want to make sure that we're not overly lifting it to the point of lofting it. We use a loft soft palate often in opera. So that's how we get the really woofy sound of opera. But if you don't want to go that far, you want to make sure you're not lofting that soft palate. Have a slight lift. And that slight lift allows for the acoustic space that we need to have great resonance. Another aspect of the way it feels to mix correctly is a relaxed tongue. I know I bring up the tongue all the time. The best thing you can do is always relax the tongue, period, but especially when you're using your mix. Another aspect of what you should feel when you're doing a mix is good breath management. The easiest way to control the voice is to take that deep below your belly button breath and send it straight out in a steady stream of air. Steady, energized air is going to be the safest way to mix, but also give you the best tone. Just remember that the idea with the mix is to hide the transition. It shouldn't be super obvious that you're going from one vocal registration to another. We want to smooth it out through the mix. That said, there are times that we actually do want a mix that is obvious for stylistic purposes and genre purposes. And I want to encourage you all to be patient with yourself. You've likely been really singing in only one part of your registration, the part that feels the best and sounds the best and feels the easiest to sing. So that part is really strong. So say you're somebody who sings in your chest a lot. Your chest is probably immensely strong. So you get a lot of sound, a lot of power with maybe not too much effort. Now when you try to use your mix with any head voice in it, or even go up to your head voice, it sounds and feels weak and like there's no presence to it. It doesn't come anywhere near this other part of your voice. Well, yeah, because it is under-exercised. It is the weaker part. And so in order to make it as strong as the parts of your voice that you use all the time, you're going to have to practice. But I also want to assure you, you can get that weaker part of your voice as strong as the strong part. Yes, through practice and much repetition, but yes. Another really great exercise, the Ee-Yah. And again, this is another one that goes from a closed vowel to a more open vowel. So if you start with an E and you're singing E, then to go to Ah, I'm going to go Ee-Yah. I'm just going to drop into the Ah. Ee-Yah. Now you see how that went dark when I went to the Ah? Ee-Yah, ee-Yah, ee-Yah. What you have to do as you're doing the E to the ah is really think about sending that sound forward, trying to put the ah where the E is. Ee-Yah, 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 with no jaw movement or as little as possible and just your tongue. Ee-Yah, 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 ee-Yah. Ee-Yah, ee-Yah, ee-Yah. That takes quite a bit of practice, but it can happen. You really have to pay attention though. For something like this, if you want to get good at doing the mix and making that mix transition as smooth and effortless as possible, then you have to do these exercises and really pay attention so that you get the muscle memory so that you don't have to think about it later. And here's a little bonus tip. If you are a singer who uses amplification, who uses mics, please take advantage of them. If there's a mic to help carry you, especially through your mix, let the mic carry you through your mix. It doesn't mean that you're not a strong singer or that you're cheating. It's actually there for that purpose. Amplification is meant to amplify your voice. The only reason we started belting as singers is because back in the day, we didn't have amplification. If you're doing a musical and you're trying to sing over the full orchestra, then you're going to belt. It's the only way you can be heard. But we have amplification. So if you can utilize that microphone in front of you, definitely take advantage of the fact that there is an amplification device right in front of your mouth and make it easy on you, especially as you are building up your mix. In the early stages of this, you have to be very careful with it and take your time and be mindful of how you use your voice as you build this. It will get better and it will get stronger in time. In the meantime, though, take advantage of the microphone. If mixed voice has felt, I'm not even looking in the right place. If mixed voice has felt confusing or inconsistent for you, finding the right guidance can make a huge difference. That's exactly why I offer the voice blueprint sessions, where we analyze your voice, identify exactly what is happening in your vocal technique, and then we create a plan to improve your range, your mix, your overall vocal coordination. I also work with singers in private coaching, so if you're ready to develop your voice more seriously, you can find the links below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, this is a part of my Reddit Sings Back series where I answer real singers' questions from the R singing community. You can check out episode 1 right here, and be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss the next episode. There are a lot more singer questions that we're going to tackle. Thank you so much for swinging by, and happy singing! Despite many factors, intrinsic and extrinsic muscle mechanics. Despite many factors, intrinsic and extrinsic muscle mechanics. Yeah. Factors including intrinsic and extrinsic muscle mechanics. Muscle mechanics, including intrinsic and extrinsic muscle mechanics. Wow. Despite many factors, including intrinsic and extrinsic muscle. Are you kidding me?